Well, welcome back, everyone, to our Thrive Couples group at Freedom Church. We are so glad and so excited that you as couples have decided to join a group, invest in your marriage, and we are so thankful that you're growing together in your relationship, especially with other people. What we're doing in this group experience is we're covering 5 different topics about marriage and relationships, and today we are talking all about conflict.
Yep, conflict. Every couple eventually has conflict. We know this, right? And it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when and how bad it will get eventually, right? So the great news is that conflict doesn't have to be a relationship breaker. It can actually serve us if we learn how to fight fair.
Yeah,
right?
that's the title of today is Fighting Fair. And if you think about it this way, you take a man and a woman, and there's enough differences between genders to talk about for days and days and days. But then you take differences in personality types and upbringings and family histories and temperaments. And God says, all right, you two, I want you to get married and live together in harmony for the rest of your life. And it feels like this big setup by God that is just going to be a train wreck. But as Helen said, it doesn't have to be something, conflict doesn't have to be something that couples avoid or something that they run away from. Conflict can actually help you become a stronger couple if you learn how to fight fair.
That's right. And so this week we are so excited to have the one and only Pastor David and Bethany Reinert.
That's right.
I always want to say your name.
That's it.
Pastor Kelly married us, and I believe you announced us Mr. and Mrs. David Renard.
I know. That's just Reinard.
And you let me know it was wrong too. So thank you. Yeah.
We love you, Pastor.
Welcome, guys. We're
Yes.
so glad that you're here. It's so awesome.
So Pastor David and Pastor Bethany oversee Freedom Kids here at Freedom Church. Yeah. They are amazing at it. We love them so much. And so we would just love for you guys to just introduce yourself a little bit more and tell everybody, some stuff about you as a married couple.
You get us started. Go for it.
All right. Now, we met in, 2015, David, moved to Maryland. I've lived here all my life pretty much. But I would say I had some kind of friendship in 2016. We met through a Freedom Church, that kind of story. And to be honest, a lot of people wanted us to get together, and I just didn't want anything to do with David at all. I was like, get him away from me. I'm going to marry a farmer. Like, that's what I'm doing. Okay?
I'm not a farmer.
He's not a farmer. Not a farmer, and he has Converse on. That's all I'm going to say. But in 2016, that summer, we were serving together throughout that summer, and actually through VBS, which, VBS. And so we kind of were making trips together and we're running errands and going to the Middle River campus. And through all of those things, we developed this friendship.
All that being said, serving on the kids team will find you your one true love.
It's not true.
Just making that clear. But no, for real. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy the way that it all worked out. And that's the beginning of a massive conversation and a massive relationship. And like Pastor Kelly and Helen mentioned, the different upbringing and the different pieces of the puzzle definitely played a portion into it as we were dating. And then as we got engaged, premarital counseling and all of that just started to reveal so much. And then even within the first couple of years of marriage, it's just been crazy. And yeah, that being said, I don't know if you mentioned it yet, but yeah, we've been married for 2 years, coming up on 3 in May. So we're excited about it.
2 years. You're like, what do we call them? Puppies?
Newbies. They're still newbies.
Yeah, which is awesome. and in this series, in this group series, you're going to hear from couples from all different walks of life and different levels of marriage and how long they've been married. And so we think it's pretty awesome to have a couple that have been basically still newlyweds and talking about conflict. And so the first question for you guys is, what is the dumbest thing that you have ever gotten into a fight over?
A lot of things. There's a lot of things, but no, the dumbest thing that we can think of right now, I'm sure there will be dumber in the future, but no, when we first got married, so I have this thing with leftovers that I really enjoy them. And so Bethany was really kind and would cook and always make some extra.
I'm the bomb. I like to cook.
And she's so good at it.
You.
I make cereal and toast. That's about it. And so, but no, I would kind of remember that there were leftovers in the fridge, and sometimes I would forget.
Kinda.
And so we were throwing some things away. And Bethany, at that point, had just thrown too many things away that day and pulled out the apple crisp that she had made and was like, "You don't like how I cook. It's just
It's
obvious
true.
you hate my food." And so that turned into like, you don't like leftovers, to you don't like how I cook, to just you don't like me as an individual. And so
Yeah.
we just, and that was the
I
moment.
can escalate very quickly. I'm
She's
definitely the
passionate.
hot-headed one, and I will get passionate very fast about something as dumb as apple crisp. And so I just felt that in that moment I was offended, and he didn't like anything that I cooked, and that was it.
And
he
I
could
was
order pizza for the
confused.
rest of our marriage.
I was very confused. So she's like really mad, and I'm sitting there not saying anything, and I cracked a smile. And that's what did it. That's what
Yeah.
opened the door to all the other things.
There's lots of banging
and
and throwing of things away. It was not a pretty moment for us.
So, I love how different the two of you are, and that while that contributes so much to the richness of your relationship, it can really bring out some big conflict as well. And even and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but the way you fight as husband and wife, as man and woman, as different personalities matters as well. The good news is that you guys are not alone. You're not the only ones to start a fight over leftovers, and it ends up, needing some counseling. Every couple fights about silly things. And so, okay, group, so here's the deal. Now, what about you? You're going to pause this video, and you're going to have some group discussion around two of these questions. So one is, what is the dumbest thing that you've ever fought about as a couple? So I think there's going to be some fun stories there. And then we're also wanting you to answer this question. What are some personal hot topics for you, and why? And when I talk about a hot topic, these are topics that when you enter into a conversation, you got to tread lightly because they're sensitive topics to you. And we're actually going to have a list on the screen, also in your guide that you can look at. They're just suggestions for you to say, yeah, you know what, finances or money or kids, those are some hot topics. So what are those hot topics and why? And we'll be right back in just a minute.
Welcome back, guys. Hopefully you guys had some time to talk about some of the topics that could cause some conflict in your relationship. The idea isn't to avoid these topics, right? But to hopefully slow down and take extra care when you're discussing them, right? So David and Bethany, what are some topics that are sensitive, hot button topics for you guys? And how do you approach them?
I would say we don't have many, but the ones that we do have run deep. So the one thing for us is like a balance of work and home, and like the times that we choose to shut it down and the times that we choose to bring up issues, So if you don't know, Dave and I, we work together. So we're together all of the time. And we've come to love it. I couldn't say that we loved it most of the time. There were some moments, and we've got into like a good rhythm. So when it comes to us, because everything's very blended, everything is very blended. And so at home, like at the dinner table or at nighttime when it's 8:00 and we're watching TV, like David's mind, he loves to stay in like the work mind and like listen to leadership podcasts and do all these things and crunch these numbers and think about what reports we could run. And I'm like, bro, like turn it off. Like I just want to sit down and watch my Netflix dream makeover show and leave me alone. So finding that's a hot topic for us. I don't know if that's scheduling, but just more in like that work to home life balance. You can speak to it a
I
little
would
bit more.
speak to that and just say so I know that when I'm going to bring up something work related, because the nature of just being pastors is people, and so people don't always know that it's like a 9-to-5 thing, and that's fine. Like that's great. That's part of what we get to do.
Yeah.
And so, but I know that when that message comes in, or I'm looking at something, that I need to be very, very intentional about what is she up to, It's not that I'm avoiding it, but at the same time, I do have to be very clear about when am I doing this. We've also gotten these like little phone hooks for cell phones, just things that you put
Amazon,
your phone on
$9.99.
that have helped within that too. And I would say another big thing that boiled down to schedule was, especially at the beginning, which this is kind of like a healing moment that happened because she said they run deep, was family. Family was a hard thing, and being 2 years in, like we had to figure out, what are holidays like? What does our Monday night look like versus our Tuesday night, and which family are we staying with? And that we let it go so long till finally we did just have that hard sit down, and we were like, what does it look like?
Yeah.
When are we spending time with those people, and when are we going to invest in them? And that actually, today, I can tell you right now that we have a very healthy relationship on both sides of the family, and we get to be with them. And it's because of having those hard conversations that we get to. And the work one, we're still, and scheduling, we're still working through that. So.
We'll let you know in 2 years.
So that's awesome. So those are some of the hot topics that you guys know that you're working on and working on. But it leads us to exactly how do we fight, right? So because there are the things that we fight about, and then how do we do it? And the truth is that there are dumb fights and there are good fights, right? And what really separates a dumb fight from a good fight is what happens during the fight. Right. So early in our marriage, we would get into conflicts about something, and one or both of us would do something that made the fight worse, right? Inevitably. And before we knew it, we weren't having a conflict about a certain situation or topic, but we were having a fight about the fight, right? Yeah.
Right. So we were arguing, and our first year of marriage was super hard, and we got some counseling and some coaching from some really good people around us, and that was helpful. But then we realized that we were fighting less. But when we did get into conflict, it went from 0 to 10 like quick. Yeah. And we one day we were just like, what is it? Why is this happening? And we both realized that we were doing things during the conflict that made it worse. Mm-hmm. And so what we did is we said, all right, let's tackle that. And so she took some time alone. I took some time alone. And we said, we're going to come up with 2 or 3 things that I think you do and you think I do that are making the conflict worse. And we ended up calling them these rules of engagement, which comes from, when you're on the battlefield in the olden days, there were rules of war. Not so much anymore maybe, but if somebody is surrendering, you don't shoot them, you take prisoner and things like that. So we have these rules of engagement. And so we came up with them, and we came back together about a week later, and we said, all right, what are these rules? And so we came up with them, and they were so helpful. So tell them one of yours.
So one of Kelly's was whenever things got heated, he had to sit down because he tends to get very animated and hands flailing. So yes, passionate is the word. So when he sat down, it would help him, for one thing, kind of calm down. And then it didn't make me feel as intimidated, right?
Yeah, because I would kind of stand, and I wasn't trying to intimidate, but how I was expressing myself, I had always done that. And she said, you have to sit down. And it seemed silly to me at first until I did it. And then I realized, one, it was helping me stay more calm, and she was able to be more engaged. Now, one for her is that when we would get into an argument, when she was done, she would literally get up, turn around, and walk away. And for my personality type,
yikes.
Because, and I tell you what, it made me mad. It made me mad because in my mind, she was taking full control of the situation and going, we'll finish this when I'm ready. And so I said to her, if you need to take a break, let me know, but don't just get up and walk away because it just presses a button in me. And so there were others for sure, but we came up with these, and man, they have just been so helpful.
So David and Bethany, in the few years that you guys have been married, what are some of the things that you've noticed during a fight that makes things worse?
Show us right now.
And what are a few things? What are a few things that help make the fight a good, productive one?
All right. So I'll kick this one off. So the way I just kind of figured we would talk about this is I'll say the things that, because we've done this before, you guys have been so helpful in this already, but I'll just say the things I do so we don't get in a fight right now. Okay. And she'll say the things that we'll do, and we'll fill in the gaps.
She's like, let me talk.
And so like some things that I did and continue to do and like just really are in my mind when we're in a fight is I've got to be really careful to respond. my main idea is just to shut down. And so for her, she just was very honest and was like, it makes me feel like you're not even paying any attention to anything.
Come on,
So,
bro.
so what helped that? So what helped that was this idea of I say when I'm processing. So even though I really want to be quiet, I'll speak something. I'll just be like, hold on, just I'm thinking, let me get there, and I'll say something. So that was a big one. Bringing up really hot topics in the car. We live in Rising Sun and we work down here in Bel Air, so there's a lot of trips together, right? And we're always in the car. And so like I need to be able
trips.
to allow her, because I don't want to put things off ever either. Like I'm very much a fixer and let's just get it done right now. So if we start something in the car, it can go like from 0 to 10 very quickly. So if she calls it and is like, we're done in the car, I have to just let it go and know that when we get home, we're going to be in a little bit more of a conducive environment for us to have a legitimate conversation. And one more thing for me, just recognizing that it's an argument is big for me. If I can recognize that, it actually helps us. Like it's almost like a bell going off, like a wrestling ring, right? Like ding, and you're in. Versus like
WWE Raw.
well, we were just talking, and now we're like yelling. What is this? And like that's just kind of where I live. But recognizing that this is a conflict and living up to that is a big one. So, your turn.
Yeah. I'm for sure the hothead in the relationship. I'm like, come on, like put up a good fight. Like, let's go. And David, not so much, but that's okay. That's like you said, personality, we're just very different. And we were talking about this earlier, and he said, it's important to like recognize like who we are and the way that God made us, but it's also important to recognize that we can't stay there. Like we love one another. So what are like these rules? What are we going to do to say, hey, I love you and I want to do better at this with you? But yeah, I'm definitely let me slam some cabinets type of person, which does not communicate anything but anger, if I'm just being real. So like for me, because I am more of like that emotional, like passionate is the word we're using, right? I've got to know like that moment, like if I feel myself going there, to just stop right there. Like, let's not move any further from this place. And I'm going to say, hey, I need a minute. And then David has to respect that time. Even if it feels so like pressing, we just have to stop, because I'm inevitably going to do or say something that I regret. Like that's a big thing for us. I need some of that breathing room. So yeah, that's for me.
And that's the biggest thing I think that we came up with at this point is like, so often in our culture, it's like, well, I'm this way, and there's personality tests, and they're so helpful. Like I would say, get some done. Like it helped us actually learn. But instead of just being like, well, I'm just a shutdown kind of person, so you're going to have to deal with it, or I'm just a loud slam the cabinet kind of. No. Like I'm going to show you love by responding when I don't want to, and I'm going to show you love by not hitting something when I just.
Easier said than done. We all know.
Yeah.
But I love what you said, David, is that when we get married, we can tend to say, well, this is who you married, and this is, you said I do, and you knew that I was, Irish and had a temper and so forth. But that's not the way Christ designed and dreamed of marriage to be, that it can be something that actually hones so I can become a much more calm person. I can be slower to anger because she's helping me with that. And I love that you guys are learning that. I mean, after 2 years, you're learning skills that some couples haven't learned, in 10. And I'm talking about us. No, I'm kidding. But thank you guys so much. So it's so awesome, because again, the idea, guys, is not to avoid conflict. Conflict is going to happen, and conflict can actually be fruitful. It can actually, it can lead to so many good things, discoveries and growth in your marriage. And so it can be a very good thing. But when you do fight, you want to fight fair. You want to have a good fight that leads to resolution and leads to something good. Okay, so you're going to pause and you're going to have some more discussion as a group. And here's what you're going to discuss. What are a few things that you've noticed when you as a couple have a fight? What are a few things you've noticed that actually makes it worse during the fight? You lose sight of what you were fighting about, and now you're fighting about the fight. So you're going to talk about that. And then you're going to talk about what are some things that you could change to make your conflicts better. Again, not avoiding, but to make them more healthy and make them more fruitful. And you may even, as a couple, after the group is over, maybe this week, you may even want to take a little time apart and make up that list of rules of engagement, come back together and discuss them. And we want to give you this bit of advice. come up with that list and agree to them. If you even need to write them down and put them somewhere where you can see them, you got to practice them. And one more bit of advice, when you're having an argument and you have those rules of engagement, if the other person violates one of those rules, you have permission to call them out. Don't be a jerk about it, right? But like if she's getting ready to get up and walk away, I can say, hey, remember, you agreed not to do that. If I'm standing, she does it. She'll say, hey, you need to sit down because you're starting to really, get upset and it's better for you to sit down. And I need to listen to that and follow that. So pause the video right now and talk about those things.